Thank you, Shraddha. So,
Yeah.
hi, Vani. So, I think this session is being recorded. So, and this would be shared with the interested participants. So, on that note, we have Scholar Connect and we have Vani who has studied in UCL. And in this session, we're gonna, ask few specific questions of her experience and what did she do in order, to get into UCL, how was her experience and all those things. So before we get started, I would ask Shraddha to brief a little bit about Bunti, through which we are all connected now. So, and also give a little bit intro about the speaker today.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of Scholar Connect. We have our speaker, Vani, who did a master's in comparative education from University of College London as a Commonwealth scholar. So she and I, we were in the same cohort, and she's my dear friend. And we have our mentor, Aishwarya, with us. She has been part of Bonti, and her mentee recently got a Shivning Scholarship. So thank you to Aishwarya for your time and support. And so Bonti started in January this year to bridge the gap between opportunities and sharing it with students across Assam and India. We aim to make this information accessible to the students who face any constraint and can be guided by us and can be guided by mentors like Aishwarya. And Scholar Connect also aims to share these insights that might be helpful for anyone listening. So thank you, Bani, for joining us, and thank you, Aishwarya, as well.
Thank you, Shraddha. Thank you. That's a lovely introduction. So, Vani, like even to directly get started with the questions, so people really have, questions when they start writing their application. So sometimes the application itself might seem daunting. So when you started writing your application for UCL, what do you think your application or the particular information which you mentioned in your application makes it comparatively much better than the others? What did you do for that, and has that been reflected? Let's say like you thought this particular thing is very important and you gave importance to it. Like what are those things in the application?
Thanks for the question, Aishwarya. I think what stood out in my application was that it blended both showing and telling the things that I
Okay.
thoroughly researched all the websites, the university websites and the scholarship websites, and I narrowed down some
Mm-hmm.
specific terms which were being repeated, like innovation or potential to make a positive impact, sustainable development, which and these are the things which I felt these targeted universities or scholarships were specifically looking for. And once I
Okay.
had all that list, I made sure that in all my essays or even in my personal statement, I incorporate all these terms. This was the telling part, right? Just using those
Okay.
specific terms. But then I gave specific examples how as to how did I demonstrate these different capabilities or characteristics in different capacities during my journey. So that was the showing bit. So I
Okay.
genuinely believe that using those specific terms really made my application stand apart because you need to like speak to these specific universities or scholarships in the very language that they understand, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
right, even like university could call it creativity, but another would call it innovation, and you could put the same example for both. But using
Yes.
that very term which they have mentioned on their website, that really makes it stand apart. So that's something which I really focused on. And I think as a thumb rule, this is something I follow not just for drafting my essays, but also when I was creating the recommender handbook for my referees. I also specified that these are the things that you need to highlight, specifically these key terms. So that
Okay.
also really helped me.
I think that is an excellent strategy, I would say, that you're mentioning what the university is looking for and then saying exactly that you have that. I think that is a really good strategy. And coming back to referees, so since you mentioned referees, also we have the next question related to referees. People sometimes really stress over thinking, who should I give as a referee? Like, should the referee be at the top position of an organization so that I should get some, the recommendation from them, or with a person whom I have like a very good connect? So, how did you choose your referees? And how important do you think those LORs from those referees are?
I think definitely they form the fulcrum of this very entire process, because in your essays or your applications, you're just stating your point of view, or these are the achievements, or these are the capabilities I believe I have. But through these LORs, there's someone credible, be it from academia or be it from a professional setting, who's actually backing it up. So that like that very much adds to the credibility of what you're trying to sell to the organization or to the scholarship committee. And in
Mm-hmm.
my case, the professional achievements were way more stronger or way more relevant as to what I intended to study. So
Okay.
I focused on that. Like, I didn't have an academic referee, so I chose three professional ones. I decided to play on my strengths. And one of them was but although like all these three were professional referees, I made sure that when I was briefing them, that what would I want them to include in my essays, or sorry, in my LORs, I would want them to also focus on how I demonstrated research capabilities, or how did I show a potential for academic excellence even while I was in a professional setting, because I know these are the qualities that CSC is actively looking out for. So even my professional referees included that in their LORs. And
Okay.
one of my referees was my reporting manager from my first organization, who I think
Okay.
presented a very well balanced mix of my weaknesses and strengths. A lot, many times, what happens is there's a lot of just praise, praise, praise happening in the LORs, and there's
Correct.
not that's something which you can improve upon, or there's no AOD or area of development. I think it's very important to highlight that as well. Then
Okay.
that just makes the overall LOR very humanistic in a way. Then
Okay.
the other referee was from another organization, was from Teach for India. But
Okay.
since they also knew me, he was also a past fellow. While I
Okay.
was like, he was a first year fellow, I was a second year fellow, and then he went on to join the staff later.
Okay.
So the reason why I chose him is because he also was a mentor. He knew me in personal capacity as well. So he could very
Okay.
well talk of my monetary need as well. That had it not been for the scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to go to the UK to study. So he
Mm-hmm.
included that in the LOR. My other professional referees were not in a position to like specify something of that sort, right? So that's why
Okay.
I chose them. The third one also was from Teach for India as well, but what she highlighted were like the projects that she mentioned were very different from what the first referee, who was also from Teach for India, mentioned. So even if it's from the same field or organization, the projects or the achievements that you're highlighting need to be very different so that it can speak of different capabilities. So I think, yeah, this is
Okay.
what my LORs entail.
So you, which means you are also stressing that like the candidate should have like a really good, strong connect with the referee, and they should know them personally so that they can highlight all these aspects, which makes really good LORs from the referees.
Not necessarily personally, but definitely somebody who can highlight the qualities that they are looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone from a high rank or high title, but basically
Mm-hmm.
someone who has seen your work and your potential firsthand. They are the ones who can give a better LOR or more substantial LOR, I feel.
Okay, 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 got it. So now coming back to the personal statements and essays. So I think when we are drafting or putting together things, structuring is also a very important aspect. Like what do you say first? What do you say in the middle? Like what do you support and how do you end it? So how did you structure your personal statement to make it look like okay, he or she is the ideal candidate to be here? So how did you structure that?
I mean, I started off with a very basic, brief hook statement, starting statement, which played a very important part in stating off uh, what my background is and what actually sparked my interest in the field of education. So that's how I started my personal statement. Then I gave specific examples from my personal and professional life as to elaborate on my commitment to the very same field or the cause of educational equity. And I also highlighted the ground realities that I witnessed as a Teach for India fellow or while working for different development organizations, which I really feel that stood out to the committee because they might have felt that, okay, this person, they are not only aware of what is happening on ground or the challenges that are being faced so as to like meet these developmental milestones, but also they've actively engaged in overcoming these or navigating these. So I included that, and apart from that, I also highlighted how pursuing that specific course or that at that specific juncture in my professional journey, how would that make sense? I highlighted
Okay.
that in my personal statement. That is, I feel, a very important part to include. And lastly, I answered all the parts of the CSC prompt directly and as specifically as possible. For even, for instance, if they mention that highlight your short term or long term goals, you need to be as specific and as concise as possible. So yeah, that's how I went about writing my.
Okay. 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 Thank you for sharing that. So the next section which we have is the choice of your course and the choice of university. So, though students are very particular about what they wanted to study, the course actually differs from university to universities. In some cases, let's say it might be MSc Innovation in one university, and it might be Innovation Management in another university. So why did you choose? You briefly mentioned why did you choose the course, but why did you choose UCL specifically?
I think it was a combination of multiple factors. Most important one was the modules or the nature of the course that was being offered, because the focus area of as you said, the same course could be very different across universities as well. And I would like elaborate on this further later. But even the faculty played a major role in my selection of the university. Like I made
Okay.
sure that their research area or their expertise was aligned to my interest or my aims, what I wish to pursue. And
Okay.
lastly, I think it was also the legacy or the prestige that the university carried. Like UCL IOE, it's been ranking number one in education for the past 13 years, which not only talks of like the high value that it holds, the department holds, but that is also one criteria that CSC also highly values. You get certain points if you rank.
Correct. I think it's in the top 10 and it's in the ninth rank, if I'm
Correct. So
not
you
wrong,
get a
and
higher
overall.
score for that. So
Yes.
yeah, that was also one more criteria for me.
Okay, I think that is also an important point. I think both the points are very important. Like, apart from looking at the curriculum, we also have to look at the faculty profile and see whether it well aligns with their expertise and what you are looking for. So you can get to learn whatever you're intending to learn. As well, since Commonwealth has this point-based ranking, and it's important to choose college which falls under a certain rank so that you get ahead of others. Yeah. And now we are done talking about the course. Why did you choose? How did you structure your essays and how to stand out? But once you go there, so now you're all selected and you're all excited to go there. Once you went there, so what was the biggest adjustment that you had to face when you moved to UK?
I mean, although the scholarship covered the entirety of all the expenses, the tuition fee, the living expenses, but I specifically was living in London and that to central London, which is one of the costliest places to stay at in the
Yes.
world. So I did struggle a bit monetarily initially, like just managing my expenses. And I think I was perhaps also way too harsh on myself in terms of spending. Like even a £3
Okay.
donut seemed like a very big deal at that point, and I was depriving myself of that. So once I
Okay.
gained, and it took me like a month or two to be able to like gain a clear picture of as to what are my non-negotiables, what are my wants, what are my needs, and what are things I can do away with. So once I had that
Mm-hmm.
clarity, and then I prepared these Excel sheets, and I was able to better budget my expenditure, and that just
Okay.
helped me to maximize the overall experience. So I think initially you just need to be a little less harsh on yourself and let certain things be. And it takes time, but
Okay.
you get the hang of it pretty early on. So it's
Okay. So we have to prioritize wants or needs basically initially, and then like you can go with wants and see if you can expand to that. So I think point well said on that. So so you were able to manage your expense, like initially you had that kind of friction, but then you were able to build the momentum up, and then you were able to sustain this,
yeah.
what I can understand, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So now we have some questions from the participants. So I just read that for you. As someone who has no clue about abroad studies, I would highly appreciate the proper go-to procedure and how we balance both scholarship and university admission. A clear guide would help. Tips on SOP, application, LOR, and visa.
Okay. I mean, I do understand that the entire process can be really intimidating or daunting, especially if you're applying for the first time, which was the case with me as well. But what worked for me was dividing the entire thing into steps and phases and constantly keeping a track of that. Just making a note of all the deadlines, what comes next, and then constantly revisiting that and updating those timelines as well, because what you might have planned initially would look very different realistically. So constantly updating that and keeping a track of all of it really helped. And I think the key is to also balance the university and scholarship process simultaneously, because you must treat them as parallel tracks from day one itself, because there might be times when like the timelines might clash or the deadlines might be closer to each other. So you constantly need to keep track of that. But have it all documented so that you don't feel overwhelmed by it. Then in terms of different phases, I think the first phase was basically research and planning about all of it, wherein you shortlist the country based on, so I had applied to both UK and US universities, which was based on the stay back visas, my budget, everything else, and the scholarships being offered. Second were the universities that I shortlisted. I think it's ideal to have two dream universities, two realistic universities, and one safe option. I think that's the ideal way to go about it. But of course, you can differ it according to your comfort. Then next
Mm,
was that I prepared a spreadsheet of all the deadlines, as I said. For scholarships, your search should also include government scholarships or university funding options and external fellowships as well. So list down all of it, list down what are the requirements for each, how many referees
okay.
do you need, which like, and then map the referee to each of those, because you would be having like specific limited number of referees as well, right? As I mentioned previously, I didn't have academic referees for Commonwealth because I had just three and I had already exhausted them as well for my university. So I couldn't have
Okay.
asked for like 5, 6 recommendation letters from the same person as well, right? So you need to see like
Yeah.
how to prioritize that. Then phase two would be taking the standardized test, like the language test, be it IELTS. Like some universities require you to take those IELTS or what are the other ones? I think Duolingo. What is the other one?
IELTS, Duolingo, we have, yeah, yeah.
Or the academic tests like GRE, GMAT. So keep a track of those deadlines as well, those requirements as well. But the timeline and tracking, all that you need to do in like phase one itself. So once you have everything documented, that is when you can start acting upon the timeline. Phase three would be to the document preparation and actual application of things. Apart from submitting the university application during the early rounds, you must also apply as early as the university portal opens for funding and external portals open up as well. last phase would be the decision making and financing, wherein you finalize the university, you secure your spot. Then for the visa process, you gather all the necessary scholarship letter or the bank account statements, which basically convince the UK government that you can cover your tuition expenses or the living expenses at least for 1 year. And
Mhm.
I think specifically, like specific elements that this person has mentioned for SOP, a well established connection really helps between your past experiences, your studies, and your current goals, and specific degree that you wish to pursue. If you're able to narrow down that specific link or bridge between all of these, that is an important element for SOP. And be, as I said before, be as specific as you can be when including the names of professors, the research labs being offered, or the modules in focus. And for scholarship SOP in particular, I think highlighting how the funding would support your impact on the community or career goals is another thing you can include. For LORs, choose people who have actually witnessed your work. This is something I said previously as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Not just professors or supervisors with high titles. And provide a recommender handbook, which is what I did, or a cheat sheet, which basically enlists all the projects or things that you've achieved while you were working under them, and so as to guide their writings. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is how to position or uniqueness with respect to the application. I think you've briefly mentioned it, but if you have something to add on from whatever you have, you can answer to this.
I think one thing would be the like your goals. How do they align to the CSC developmental themes? There are 6 of
Mm-hmm.
those. You need to research, like read
Yes.
up them and then narrow it down and research about it, and basically highlight that bridge between the two. And in your developmental essay, cite specific local or national developmental priorities in your country, India in our case, which could look like specific challenges which are facing your sector in that country. So this is something you need to highlight. And if you are from an underrepresented group, or you face certain specific hardships during your lifespan, you can also highlight that in your application, but don't make it a sob story of sorts.
Mm.
Just probably build on to it as if you're highlighting how you turned adversity into a story of resilience, leadership, and deep rooted commitment as to the specific area which you might have struggled with in your life, but now you want to give back to the community. And I think, yeah, just basically also being very specific about your goals, which is something I highlighted previously as well. Uh,
I think very well, put out like the goals and how it aligns with the CSE teams as well, and as well like the place where you are from and what more you can contribute. And as you rightly mentioned, not as a sobbing story, but as something that how well you have grown and how far you have come in order to achieve things, and with this scholarship, like where you can go. That's a interesting and well said point. So I think the next.
one method which I used, right, for all these essays was the STAR method, which I think is really, really helpful.
Yes.
It just makes everything very specific, which so for someone who doesn't know how that works out is, so STAR method is basically, STAR is the situation or you explain the overall context, then task is the specific problem that you identified and worked on, A is for action, like what exactly did you do, and R is the result in terms of quantifiable outcomes specifically. So that's exactly how I wrote all my essays or resume, or even for the LORs. This is the thing that I highlighted, that like probably like you can use this method as well.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning that. And next questions with related to Commonwealth Masters and Shared. How to strategically decide which course to keep for Commonwealth Masters and Shared respectively out of applications at Cambridge, LSE, Oxford, SOAS, IDS, and UCL. I think the second part of the question is with respect to Shared. Like because the same, probably the similar, not same, similar course will be offered by different universities. How to
Yeah.
strategically decide which one to choose out of it?
I think for master's scholarship, it covers almost all of the master's courses in the UK, but
Yes,
requires you to rank your preferences and you need to like
correct.
list down 3 courses independently. The shared scholarship, on the other hand, requires you to apply and be nominated by a specific university and course. So first, like to begin with, you must like check out the CSC approved portal, which gives out a list of courses that you can choose from, and they are the only ones being funded that year, and it changes every year.
Mm.
So keep a track of that. Then, like as I mentioned previously, the same course could be looking very different across universities, and
Mm.
so so it's very important to evaluate the module options or the course structure for each university, because the same course, it could be the same title, but it could be entirely different what is
Yes.
actually happening in the university. Like I'll give you the example of my course or similar course. For example, like UCL IOE, it offers a course called Masters of Education in Education and International Development.
Okay.
But it focuses on global inequities, conflict, sociology of international development, things which interested me. But the same
Okay.
course at Oxford was titled MSc, which is Master of Science in Education in Comparative and International Education. But the focus was on research design, policy analysis,
Mm.
cross national education system comparison. Again, the same course looked very different in Cambridge as well. It was called MPhil in Education, and the focus
Okay.
was more on inclusion, equity, educational quality. So, see, the same course could look drastically different. So, you
Yes.
need to know which one aligns with your interests or your goals, or what also how what you bring to that specific course, like what are the kind of things you have done in the past and how do they align with this specific one. So that, like, having that clarity really helped me shortlist my courses. And yeah, basically just aligning the course to your academic and professional goals.
Okay. Okay. So I think then we have to choose with regards to shared scholarship that the subject matters a lot when
Yeah,
choosing the universities. And we
but
have
also of course after like confirming whether or not that course is being funded that year, right?
yes, yes. Yeah. So, couple more questions from the participants. By when should we target to submit our college application latest to maximize chances for the Commonwealth scholarship?
I think for the master's scholarship, as long as you're meeting the deadlines for both the university and the scholarship, it's all fine. But
Mm-hmm.
first check if you need an offer letter, which we did need it for the master's
Yes.
scholarship. So make sure you apply as soon as possible to the, like as and when the university portal opens, try to apply at least a month early so that you have an offer letter while applying for the scholarship. And most universities do reply early within 2 3 weeks, but you can
Hmm.
also email the postgraduate admins in the universities so that they and let them know about that this is the scholarship that I'm applying to and if an early decision is possible. But this
Hmm.
does not work in the case of like Oxford or Cambridge. Last time,
Okay.
Oxford released early decisions for people who applied in first 2 weeks of the cycle, and then the Indian government just postponed the deadline, the 30th November deadline, to December. Which made
Okay.
it easy for applicants to upload the Oxford offer, but this does not happen every year, so we shouldn't count in that. I would
Okay.
rather suggest that you apply to universities like UCL, which that's just one example, but which give early decisions so that you have an offer letter in hand so as to
Correct.
apply for the CSC masters in time. And even if your main target is Oxbridge, you can like go for it at a later stage during the interview stage as well. And for the
Okay.
shared scholarship, you need to follow two specific deadlines. First is the funding deadline of the respective university, which is either in November, December, or January. But
Mm-hmm.
mostly December first week it is when it's for Oxbridge. Second is the deadline for the CSC shared scholarship itself, which is generally between 15 to 30th November. So you need to like work on both of these deadlines in parallel.
Okay. And just to be mindful of the time, I think we have around less than 10 minutes. So we have one last question and then we'll move to the generic question. So the final question from the participant is, how much work experience did you have when you applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship, and how does that experience matter for the scholarship?
I mean, I had about 5 years of work experience in the education and learning space when I had applied. Although it's not mandatory, but I do believe that having some work experience just makes your overall application very strong and more competitive. Because the committee evaluates applicants on the basis of the developmental impact or the leadership potential that they have shown in the past, both
Mm-hmm.
of which I believe can be demonstrated well if you've worked either in a full-time capacity or even in volunteering experiences. So that way I
Okay.
feel it's very important. But there has to be some relevance of the work that you've done as well, right? There has to be some connection. You cannot be working as a pilot for 3 years and then suddenly wake up and decide one day that I wish to study museum studies or something, right? Of course,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, but then you need to establish that link and make sure that you
Link, yes.
explicitly highlight that link between the work you've done and now what exactly do you want to do next. I'm sure there's a correlation, there could be a correlation between these two things as well, but just
How we
state
say
it.
that is all matters, right? How we link
Yeah,
it and
yeah,
say, yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. So one last generic question, like from your end, what advice or tip do you have for anyone who's aiming for this scholarship, apart from the ones which you have covered so far?
This is something like I say to everybody that I talk to about the scholarship or just university applications in general, that do not self reject. I mean, I get
Mm-hmm.
it that the overall like 1% selection rate can be pretty intimidating. Forget having the hopes of getting selected. Initially, I wasn't even sure of applying. Right? You look at all these amazing profiles of past scholars, the kind of achievements they've had in their respective fields, and you kind of feel, oh, should I even be applying? Should I be putting in the effort? I am not sure if I would make it. And a sense of self-doubt does tend to creep, and it's very natural. But it's very important to get over that feeling and just give yourself a chance at least, right? Because you first need to believe in yourself if you want the scholarship committee or any university to believe in you. And I'm
Yes.
extremely grateful to myself for I was able to do that for myself and took that chance. And yeah, both of us were in the UK last year.
I mean, that I think that is also an important thing for the participants to remember, that you should not self-reject yourself. At least give it a try.
Yeah,
What's wrong in trying? At least like give it a try so that you get to see whether you're able to get through it or not. If not, you can at least gain an experience and you can do better next time. I
exactly.
think only if you try, you'll be
Yeah.
able to get in, right?
Yeah. Even if you don't make it, you need to like remind yourself that it's not exactly about you, right? There are a couple of
Yes.
factors that are taken into consideration every year. Like you need to see like what other people you were competing against, or it could even not be about your profile specifically, right? It could
Yes.
also be about what is the CSE priority funding domain in that
Yes.
specific year. So, yeah, but to begin with, just don't be harsh on yourself and just give it a try.
Okay, thank you so much, Vani, for sharing your experience. I mean, we really learned a lot by talking to you today, and it gives like a holistic picture, like starting from the application to LOR to sharing your experience, how to structure it. So I hope the participants who view this would also be able to, get that insights and they can actually implement it. So I also take this moment to thank Shraddha for making this possible. So
Yeah,
yes,
thank you,
thank you,
Vani.
Vani.
Thank you. Like you were lovely. I think this will be very insightful for a lot of applicants. And thank you, Aishwarya, for being such a wonderful host and moderating this session so wonderfully. It was so fun to hear you guys talk, to be honest. So thank you both for doing this.
Thank you so much to the both of you. I really, really hope it can help as many people as possible.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
sure it
without a
will.
doubt.
Yeah. Okay, then
Yeah.
take care.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
everyone. See you. Bye.